Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. My name is Hogduck3, and welcome to Tech Saturday, episode 11, where today I'm giving you guys a $2,500 AMD gaming PC. Now, before I start, I just want you guys to know you don't need to spend $2,500 just to get a gaming PC, but if you have $2,500 and you are a fan of AMD, this is the build for you. So without further ado, let's get started. So for the CPU, I went with the AMD FX 8350. This is a AM3 Plus socket CPU. It is clocked at 4 GHz. That is the base clock. That is not a boost clock. It is unlocked, if you guys didn't know. It is an octa-core processor. It's not a quad-core, it's an octa-core. It does not have hyper-threading because that's an Intel-only thing, but since it's an octa-core, it really doesn't matter. And it also has a TDP of 125 watts. Now, I just want to state for the record, this isn't better than the Intel Core i7-4770K, but say you want a cheap processor that's going to handle live streaming, video editing, gaming, listening to music, whatever you throw at it, this is a really good CPU for a gaming PC, and for $179.99, this CPU is gonna get the job done. Alright, so for the CPU cooler, I went with the Corsair H100. I really like this liquid CPU cooler, one because it is a closed loop system, and what that means is that you don't have to change the water or do any cleaning to the liquid cooler like you do with other liquid CPU coolers. This one is closed, it's already done for you. And the other thing I like about this one, if you look in the middle, you can see a little button there that allows you to control the fan speed. So the lowest fan speed for the quiet mode spins at 1300 RPM, and the highest mode, which is max, spins at 2500 RPM, and the noise level varies from 22 decibels to 39 decibels. I really like this CPU cooler. A lot of people recommend it in their builds, and it's just a really reliable CPU cooler. And for $97.13, you could even overclock with this CPU cooler if you wanted to. Alright, now for the motherboard, I went with the ASRock 990FX Extreme 9. This is a ATX form factor motherboard. It uses the AM3 Plus socket. It has the AMD 990FX chipset. It has 4 240-pin DIMM slots. The max memory it supports is 64 gigabytes of RAM. The max speed it supports is 1600 megahertz, but you can overclock that if you want to. It does have RAID support. It has 2 USB 3.0 headers. It has Crossfire support, 3-way SLI support, and it also has 8 6GB SATA ports. Now, I really like this motherboard because it is a really good looking motherboard. It's from ASRock, and a lot of people recommend ASRock because they're cheap, but they're also reliable. Now, you're not going to be getting the same features as you would on like an MSI or a Gigabyte motherboard, where on Gigabyte you have the backup BIOS, and on MSI you have the overclock button on it. But with ASRock, you're getting a really good motherboard. You're getting pretty good gaming performance. You can overclock, you can game, you can do whatever with this motherboard. And for $187.98, this motherboard is going to be perfect for this gaming PC. Alright, now for the RAM, I went with the Crucial Ballistic Sport. I have two 8GB sticks here, which combined give you 16GB of memory. They're both clocked at 1600 MHz, and both of them use 1.5 volts of electricity. Now, some people may question why I decided to go with 16GB of memory instead of 32GB of memory for a gaming PC. And the answer to that is you really don't need 32 gigabytes of memory for gaming. 8 gigabytes is usually enough. The Xbox One and the PS4, they both use 8 gigabytes of memory. You can see that on the Xbox One and the PS4, they both run really smooth, unless you were going to be Skype chatting your grandmother and Skype chatting your friend from China, and you're also going to be listening to Pandora while watching a YouTube video, while playing Battlefield 4 at ultra settings, while live streaming, while recording with Fraps. You really don't need more than 16 gigabytes of memory, or in this case more than 8 gigabytes of memory for a gaming PC. But for $124.99, you're getting two very reliable and very good sticks of RAM here. Alright, now for the SSD, I went with the OCZ Agility 3. This is a 480 gigabyte capacity SSD. It uses the SATA 6 gigabyte interface, and it is also a 2.5 inch form factor. Now, I love this SSD because OCZ, a lot of people really recommend this SSD because it has a lot of space. It has 408 gigabytes of memory, so you could save your games on there. Even though you won't really see a sort of gaming performance, the game may load up faster, but in real life you won't see a major difference from playing on an SSD and playing on a hard drive. And also, if you have some family photos that you're afraid of putting on a hard drive, because hard drives do fail at times, you can put that on this SSD. It's really good to have an SSD in a big computer like this, and for $297.82, this is a really reliable SSD, and it's going to get the job done for you. And now onto the real memory of this system. The hard drive, I went with the Western Digital Caviar Black. This is a 2 terabyte capacity drive. It uses the SATA 6 gigabyte interface. It has 64 megabytes cache, 7200 RPM speeds, and it uses a 3.5 inch form factor. Now, I love Western Digital because these guys are reliable. Their pieces, their hardware are USA made, which is just really awesome. And 2 terabytes should be enough for all your games, music, movies. And if you need more, this motherboard, the motherboard that I chose for this gaming PC, has enough SATA ports to support even more SSDs and more hard drives in the future. But for $145.33, this is going to be a really good hard drive, and you should just be able to plug it in and go. And now for the GPU, I went with the PowerColor Radeon HD 7990. This is a 6 gigabyte capacity GPU. It uses GDDR5 memory, which is good for graphics. It's clocked at 900 megahertz, but I'm pretty sure you can just overclock it. It has 2 DVI dual link ports, 1 HDMI port, and 2 mini display ports. Now, what I love about the 7990 is that it is just a monster of a card, and I don't think it's going to be replaced until the new 9000 series cards come out from AMD. Now, I know they just introduced their new 8000 series cards, but those ones, they're basically just replacements for like the 7850 or the 7870. They are their replacements, or maybe even lower than that. But this one, I can assure you, will run Battlefield 4 at ultra settings, because that is what DICE was using when they were showing off Battlefield 4 for the first time. That was just the alpha build. It's not optimized for other cards yet, but once the game is fully released and we have the specs, I can assure you that the PowerColor Radeon HD 7990 will handle mainly anything you throw at it. And for $654.98, this card is just going to be a beautiful addition to your PC. And now onto the power supply. I went with the EVGA Supernova NEX 1500 classified. This is a 1500 watt power supply. It is a modular power supply, which is going to help so much with cable management. And it is also 80 plus gold certified, not 80 plus bronze, 80 plus gold. Now, I chose this one because it is a sleek, beautiful power supply. It is a modular power supply. It is completely modular, which is going to help so much with cable management. You just plug in the cables that you need, and you just put the cables that you don't need in like a drawer or in your desk or something. And 1500 watts is kind of killing it for this system, but it is really good, really reliable, and for $349.99, you can rest assured that even if you had a second 7990 or maybe a third 7990, this system will be able to handle it because it has all the power that you need for your gaming PC. Now, this piece of hardware is completely optional. You don't need to get it if you know how to install Windows through a USB, but I decided to add the Pioneer BDC-207 DBK. This is a Blu-ray drive. Since this is a $2,500 build, I decided to just add the Blu-ray drive just for fun, because that's the type of guy I am. And even though you don't really need Blu-ray for gaming. You don't really need an optical drive for gaming either, because most games from Steam, you just download it through the internet onto your hard drive. But if you wanted to add Blu-ray to this system, it's really cheap. It's only $45.98. If you don't want an optical drive and you know how to install Windows through a USB, you don't have to get it. But this option is just, that's what it is. It's an option. Alright, now for the housing, I went with the Corsair Obsidian Series 800D. The dimensions are 24 inch, 9 inch, 24 inch again. So the reason why I chose this one was because it is a beautiful case on the outside. And something else that I really like about this case, if you notice right above the power supply mount, you can see that there is a tray blocking the power supply mount and the motherboard area. What that's supposed to do is you basically put everything on the bottom that doesn't need immediate cooling, like your power supply or your SSDs or your cables or anything like that, and everything else on top above the tray, that's where you put your motherboard, your GPU, and that's all for cooling purposes. So you have the stuff on the bottom that doesn't need immediate cooling and the stuff on the top that does need immediate cooling. And it is just a really awesome case, really just beautiful design, and it's only $239.98, and for that price, your components are just going to look beautiful inside this case. Alright guys, that is the build. Now the estimated wattage that this computer will be using is 713 watts of power. Now, if you have your own version of Windows at your house and you're not going to be purchasing a new version of Windows, your final price is $2,314.17. Now, if you want to purchase Windows 8 with this PC, this is all at the time of making this video, your price will be $2,408.05. And if you're going to be purchasing this build with Windows 7, your final price is $2,404.15. So that is the build. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, smack that like button. It helps me out a lot. And that is it. And I will see you guys in my next video. This is your boy Hogdeck3, and I'm out. God bless.